Hi everyone, welcome back. Myself Anjita Aravind. Today we are discussing the second endocrine gland, the thyroid and parathyroid gland. In this section, we are covering the anatomy and physiology of thyroid and parathyroid glands, its hormone secretions, and control of secretion and functions. So first we will start about the physiology and anatomy of the thyroid gland, and from its image itself we can see that it is a butterfly shaped gland and it is located just inferior to the larynx. Larynx is the voice box and it is composed of right and left lateral lobes and one of either side of the trachea and are connected by an isthmus region. And in this image we can see that there is a right lateral lobe and a left lateral lobe, and these two are connected together by an isthmus region. It is a narrow passageway anterior to the trachea. About 15% of the thyroid gland have a small third lobe and it is called the pyramidal lobe, and it extends superiorly from the isthmus, and a normal mass of the thyroid gland is about 13 gram. So this is the basic physiology of the thyroid gland. Here we can see an image which will shows the location, blood supply and histology of the thyroid gland. In the left side small image we can see the histology of the thyroid gland, and that image we can see the thyroid follicles. It is a microscopic spherical sacs which is called the thyroid follicles, and these make up most of the thyroid glands. And the wall of each follicle, which consists of primarily of cells called the follicular cells, and also a basement membrane surround each follicle. Here we can see the thyroid follicle is there and the follicular cell and the basement membrane, all these are noted in this image. And under the influence of the thyroid stimulating hormone, they become active in secretion, and the follicular cells which will produce two hormones, the thyroxine, which is also called the tetraiodothyroxine or T4 because it consists of 4 atoms of iodine, and the second hormone is triiodothyroxine or T3 which contains 3 atoms of iodine, and T3 and T4 together are also known as the thyroid hormones. So these are the hormones which is secreted from the follicular cells. And here we can also see a parafollicular cells or the C cells is there. It lies between the follicles and they produce the hormone calcitonins which helps to regulate the calcium homeostasis. So this is the histology of the thyroid gland and its blood supply and the hormones which is secreted from the thyroid follicles. Here we can see the steps in the synthesis and secretion of the thyroid hormones, and the thyroid gland is the only endocrine gland that stores its secretory products in a large quantities, that is the T3 and T4, normally about 100-day supply. And the synthesis and secretion of the T3 and T4 occurs in an 8-step process. Here I added the 8 steps, and in this image we can see the 8 steps which is numbered, and the formation of the T3 and T4 is shown as a diagrammatic structure. And the first step is the iodine trapping. In iodine trapping, the thyroid follicular cells, here in the upper portion of the image we can see that the colloid which is surrounded by a follicular cells, and the follicular cells is surrounded by the blood capillaries. And here in the first step the thyroid follicular cells traps the iodide ions, that is the I- ions. In the enlarged form of the image we can see that the blood plasma which will contain the I-, that is the iodide ions, and it is trapped by actively transporting them from the blood into the cytosols. So from the blood the iodide ions are trapped into the cytosol region. So it is the iodide trapping process, first step. And the second step is the synthesis of thyroglobulins. The follicular cells which have also functioning to synthesizing the thyroglobulins otherwise TGB, and the thyroglobulins are a large glycoprotein and that is produced in the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Here we can see that the second step, synthesis of thyroglobulin, it is synthesized in the rough endoplasmic reticulum and modified in the Golgi complex and packed into secretory vesicles, and the vesicles then undergo exocytosis which release the thyroglobulin into the lumen of the follicles. So here we can see that first it is produced in the rough endoplasmic reticulum and then move into the Golgi complex and stored in the secretory vesicles, and these vesicles then undergo exocytosis process and they release the thyroglobulins into the lumen of the follicles. So now the thyroglobulin is in the lumen of the follicles, and the next step will start, that is the oxidation of the iodide. The third step is the oxidation of iodide, and some of the amino acids in the thyroglobulin are tyrosinase, and that will become iodinated, that is it converted into the I2 form. So here we can see that it is converted into I2 form, that is the oxidation of the iodide will happens in the third stage. And the next is the iodination of the tyrosines. As the iodine molecules, that is the I2 form, here we can see the I2 form of the molecules, and they react with the thyroxines and that are part of the thyroglobulin molecules, and a binding of one iodine atom yields mono iodothyroxine, that is the T1 molecules, and a second iodination produces the diiodothyroxine. So T1 and T2 molecules will produce, and the thyroglobulin with attached iodine atoms, that is a sticky material that accumulate and is stored in the lumen of the thyroid follicle. It is known as the colloid. So it is the colloid which will attaches the iodine molecules together, and T1 and T2 will forms. And next step is the coupling of the T1 and T2. So iodination of thyroxine which will produces the T1 and T2 molecules, and next coupling of T1 and T2 will occurs, and during the last step in the synthesis of the thyroid hormone, the two T2 molecules join to form the T4, and one T1 and one T2 join to form the T3. So this is the fifth step, that is coupling of T1 and T2 to form the T3 and T4 hormones. And the next step is the pinocytosis and digestion of colloid. Here the droplet of colloids of follicular cells by pinocytosis and merge with the lysosomes, and digestive enzymes in the lysosomes break down the thyroglobulin, and cleaving of molecule of the T3 and T4 will occurs. Here we can see that the pinocytosis and digestion of the colloid will occurs, and the lysosome will get into the cells, and T3 and T4 are separated. So here pinocytosis and digestion of the colloid will happens in the sixth step, and the seventh step is the secretion of the thyroid hormones. So now the thyroid hormones are ready to secrete, and here the T3 and T4, they are the lipid soluble, and they diffuses through the plasma membrane into the interstitial fluid and then into the blood, and the T4 which is normally is secreted by greater quantity than the T3, but the T3 is several times more potent than the T4. So the T3 and T4s, these are diffuses through the plasma membrane into the interstitial fluid and then into the blood. So now the both hormone reaches the blood, and the next step, that is transport in the blood, will occurs. More than 99% of both the T3 and T4 combined with the transport protein in the blood, and mainly thyroxine binding globulin which will transport the T3 and T4 through the blood. Here we can see that TBG, that is the thyroxine binding globulin, which is the transport protein which will transport the T3 and T4 through the blood capillaries. So this is the steps of synthesis and secretion of the thyroid hormones. Here I added some of the actions of the thyroid hormones, and because of most body cells have the receptors for the thyroid hormone, both the T4 and T3, they exert their effect throughout the body. And the first action of thyroid hormone is increases the basal metabolic rate, that is the BMR. That is the thyroid hormone which increases the BMR, that is the rate of oxygen consumption under the standard or the basal condition, that is the awake state, at rest and fasting state, by stimulating the use of the cellular oxygen to produce the ATPs. That's why it increases the basal metabolic rate. And the second one is it helps to maintain normal body temperature. How it happens, that is The second major effect of the thyroid hormone is to stimulate the synthesis of additional sodium potassium pumps. We already heard about the sodium potassium pump, which uses large amount of ATP to continually eject the sodium ions from the cytosol into the extracellular fluid and the potassium ions from the extracellular fluid into the cytosol. So this is the basic function happening in the sodium potassium pumps. So in this way, the thyroid hormones, which will play an important role in the maintenance of the normal body temperature and the normal mammals, which can survive in the freezing temperatures also, but the thyroid glands have been removed, which will cannot survive in the freezing temperature. So the thyroid gland, which will maintain a normal body temperature. And the third function is to stimulate the protein synthesis, that is in the regulation of metabolism. The thyroid hormone, which will stimulate the protein synthesis and increases the use of glucose and fatty acids for ATP production. That's why it stimulates the protein synthesis. And the next is the thyroid hormone, which will enhance some action of the catecholamines. Catecholamines means that is the norepinephrine and the epinephrines, and because they upregulate the beta receptors. By these reasons, the symptoms of hypothyroidism may include increased heart rate, more forceful heartbeats, and increased blood pressure. And the last function or action of thyroid hormone is it combined with together with the human growth hormone and insulin. Thyroid hormone accelerate the body growth, and also particularly the growth of the nervous and the skeletal system. So the deficiency of the thyroid hormone during our fetal development, infancy or childhood causes severe mental retardation and stunted bone growth. So these are some of the problems which will happen due to the deficiency of the thyroid hormone. So these are the main actions of the thyroid hormone in the human bodies. Next we will discuss the control of the thyroid hormone secretion. So the thyrotropin releasing hormone, we already said that the TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus, and the thyroid stimulating hormone from the anterior pituitary, which will stimulate the synthesis and release of the thyroid hormones in a 5-step process. Here we can see the 5-step process in the image. So the first one is when there is a low blood level of T3 and T4 or low metabolic rate, which will stimulate the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus will secrete the thyroid releasing hormones. So the first step we can see that the hypothalamus, which will stimulate the thyroid releasing hormones, and the thyroid releasing hormone enter the hypophyseal portal veins. We already said about the hypophyseal portal veins in our last videos, and flows into the anterior pituitary. So the TRH flows into the anterior pituitary through the hypophyseal portal veins, and these TRH, which will stimulate the thyrotropes to secrete the thyroid stimulating hormones. So on the last section we already discussed that the anterior pituitary hormones, that is the thyroid stimulating hormone, which is secreted by the cells thyrotropes in the anterior pituitary. Those who have more references needed, just go through the videos on the previous sections. And so now here the thyroid releasing hormones reaches the anterior pituitary, and it will stimulate the thyrotropes and to secrete the thyroid stimulating hormone. And the thyroid stimulating hormones stimulate virtually all aspects of the thyroid follicular cells activity, including the iodine trapping and the hormone synthesis and secretions and the growth of the follicular cells. That is the 8 steps we all just discussed it before. That is the 8th step for the synthesis and the secretion of the thyroid hormone. These all are promoted by the thyroid stimulating hormones, and the thyroid follicular cells will release the T3 and T4 into the blood until the metabolic rate returns to the normal. So it is the 4th steps, that is T3 and T4, which will released into the blood by the follicular cells, and an elevated levels of the T3 inhibits the release of the TRH and TSH by a negative feedback mechanism. So here we can see that when there is a low level of the T3 and T4, the hypothalamus will stimulate the thyroid releasing hormone, and it will reaches the anterior pituitary through the hypophyseal portal veins and the TSH, which will helps to the secretion and synthesis and secretion of the T3 and T4, and the T3 and T4 released into the blood by the follicular cells, and the blood will reaches a normal level of the T3 and T4, and an increased or elevated levels of the T3 then inhibit the release of the TRH and TSH in the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary by a negative feedback mechanism. So this is the control of the thyroid hormone secretions. And the conditions that increases the ATP demand, just like the cold environment, hypoglycemia, and high altitude and pregnancy, this also increases the secretion of the thyroid hormones. Here we can see the summary of the thyroid gland hormones. Thyroid gland mainly secrete three hormones, two from the follicular cells and one from the parafollicular cells. The follicular cells which will secrete the hormones T3 and T4, that is triiodothyroxine and thyroxines. Its functions, secretions and control of secretions are already we discussed. And the next one is the calcitonins, which is secreted from the parafollicular cells, that is a few cells which is called the parafollicular cells or the C cells, which is lies between the follicles. They will secrete or produce the hormones calcitonins, we already said that, and which helps to regulate the calcium homeostasis. So now we will discuss how it helps to secrete or regulate the calcium homeostasis, that is the calcitonin or CT, which can decrease the level of the calcium in the blood by inhibiting the action of osteoclast. Osteoclast means that is the cells that break down the bone extracellular matrix, and the secretion of the calcitonin is controlled by a negative feedback system, that is when its blood level is high, the calcitonins lowers the amount of the blood calcium and phosphate by inhibiting bone reabsorption, that is breakdown of the bone extracellular matrix by osteoclast, and by accelerating the or increasing the uptake of the calcium and phosphate into the bone extracellular matrix. By this mechanism, they control the secretion of calcitonins by a negative feedback system. And in the condition, that is osteoporosis conditions, we can use the miacalcins, which is a calcitonin extract which is derived from salmons. It is 10 times more potent than the human calcitonin, so it is used in or prescribed in the condition for the treatment of the osteoporosis. So that's all about the thyroid gland. Next we will discuss the parathyroid glands. The partially embedded in the posterior surface of the lateral lobes of the thyroid gland, and are several small rounded masses of tissues are called the parathyroid glands. Para means besides, and each has a mass of about 40 milligram, 40 milligram, and usually one superior and one inferior parathyroid glands are attached to each lateral thyroid lobes for a total of 4 in number. And in this image we can see that the right and left superior and inferior parathyroid glands, which is located on the posterior aspects of each lobes of the thyroid gland. Here we can see an image which will shows the histology of the parathyroid glands, and microscopically the parathyroid glands contain mainly two kinds of epithelial cells. The more numerous cells, that is the chief cells. In this image we can see the chief cells, otherwise known as the principal cells, which will produce the parathyroid hormone, that is PTH, and it is also called parathormones. And the function of the other kind of cells called the oxyphil cells. Here we can see also the oxyphil cells in this image. The function of these cells is not known in a normal parathyroid gland, but in a cancer state of the parathyroid gland, these oxyphil cells will secrete excess of the parathyroid hormones. So the parathyroid gland, which will contain mainly two types of cells, the chief cells and the oxyphil cells. Chief cells, otherwise known as the principal cells, it will secrete the hormones, parathyroid hormones, and the oxyphil cells function is not known. Now we will discuss the function of the parathyroid gland, its control of secretion and its mechanism behind it. Here we can see that the parathyroid hormone, which is a major regulator of the level of the calcium, magnesium and phosphate ions in the blood, and the specific action of the parathyroid hormone is to increase the number of and the activity of the osteoclast too, and it has also a function in the kidneys. The parathyroid hormones which will act on the kidneys by three mechanisms. Firstly, it slows the rate at which the calcium and magnesium are lost from the blood into the urine, and secondly, it increases the loss of the phosphate from the blood into the urine, and third effect of the parathyroid hormone on the kidney is to promote the formation of the hormone calcitriol. Calcitriol is the active form of the vitamin D, and the blood calcium levels which is directly control the secretion of both the calcitonin and parathyroid hormone via a negative feedback loops, and that do not involve the pituitary gland. So here we can see that mechanism behind the blood calcium level and its control in the secretion of both the calcitonin and parathyroid hormone when there is a increased level of calcium in the blood and when there is a decreased level of calcium in the blood. So it's shown by a 6-step mechanism, and the first steps we can see that a higher than normal level of the calcium ion in the blood which will stimulate the parafollicular cells of the thyroid gland to release more calcitonin. So calcitonin is released, and the calcitonins which will inhibit the activity of the osteoclast and thereby decreasing the blood calcium level. So there is a higher level of calcium amount and it will stimulate the thyroid gland, and the parafollicular cells release the calcitonin, and the calcitonin inhibit the activity of the osteoclast and thereby decreasing the blood calcium level. And now we can see that when there is a lower than normal level of the calcium in the blood which will stimulate the chief cells of the parathyroid gland to release more parathyroid hormone, and this parathyroid hormone which will promote the reabsorption of the bone extracellular matrix and which release calcium into the blood and slows the loss of calcium in the urine and rising the blood level of the calcium. And parathyroid hormone also stimulate the kidney to synthesize calcitriol. Calcitriol is the active form of the vitamin D. So in the 5th step we can say that the parathyroid hormone stimulate the kidney to release the calcitriols too, and calcitriol stimulate the increased absorption of calcium from the food in the gastrointestinal tract, and which helps to increase the blood level of calcium. So it will causes the high level of calcium in the blood. So when there is a lower level of calcium, it will stimulate the parathyroid gland chief cells and it release the parathyroid hormone, and the parathyroid hormones promote the release of calcium from the bone extracellular matrix into the blood and also slows the loss of calcium in the urine and increases the blood calcium level. And also the parathyroid hormone has an activity to increase or stimulate the kidney to release the calcitriol, and calcitriol stimulate the increased absorption of calcium from the food, that is from in the gastrointestinal tract. It increases the reabsorption of the calcium and which increases the blood calcium level. So this is the control of secretion of both the calcitonin and parathyroid hormones via a negative feedback loop. Here I added a table which summarizes the control of secretion and the principal actions of the parathyroid hormone. The parathyroid hormone which is secreted from the chief cells and its control of secretion in low blood calcium and high blood calcium levels, and the principal actions which we'll already discussed, that is the roles of the calcitonins, parathyroid hormone and calcitriols in the calcium homeostasis. You just go through all these sections, and that's all about the parathyroid glands and its hormone and its functions. So this is all about the thyroid and parathyroid gland. Thank you all for your kind attention. If you are a new viewer of my channel, please press the like button if you like my video and support me through subscribing my channel. Thank you all.